Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app, on Apple Podcasts, on Android, or recommend Spotify. Also, make sure to check out the Five Reasons YouTube channel for all your Dolphins content and more around South Florida. I want to tell you also about Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. That's $2.99 per month. You can find the link right here in the description. You'll bypass the Apple upcharge for the most heat anywhere, the most heat information and conversation. We're sponsored here today by our friends over at Cozy Earth. We're giving you a little bit more time on this 40% off deal. If you want or you have a loved one who wants better sleep, this is the place to go. Whether it's the bubble cuddle blanket or the Cozy Earth bamboo sheets, they've got everything there on the website, and it's a risk-free purchase. 100-night sleep trial. Try them out. If you don't love them, return them hassle-free, and 10-year warranty, because once you feel this level of comfort, you'll want it to last a decade. So check it out. Give the gift of everyday luxury this holiday season. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code. It's on the floor, and you get 40% off, but just make sure to place your order by December 12th for guaranteed Christmas delivery. So again, check it out. It's on the floor for 40% off until December 12th. After that, it's 20% off. Still a great deal, but do it now. Give the gift of comfort that lasts beyond the holidays and carries into a cozy new year. Again, use the code on the floor at CozyEarth.com. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation, we the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket, open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pit. Still five on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleepy paths or allowed to mornings. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the court to the streets. Damn, Wake County, Heat Nation, we say it proudly.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
So make sure to check out our on-SI sites on the Heat and some other teams. I've got lots of stories on the Heat up there now. Today's floor plan, I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick in 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at no, you can't follow him there. At Tropical Blanket. The Miami Heat are in the 6th spot right now. And this is what we're going to talk about briefly here on a Sunday night. They don't play again until Tuesday. They're up in Orlando again. Lost twice there in the final minute. But Franz Wagner took a pretty serious spill today, appeared to hurt his knee. That did not look good. So we will see if he's available Tuesday. I doubt it. It's going to probably be a very long absence for him, which could impact the Eastern Conference standings. So we're going to talk about that a little today and how the Heat have dropped. They were briefly 7 today and then jumped back up to 6 because Philadelphia lost to the Lakers. So I'm going to give you the standings right now. We're going to talk about what's a surprise and what's not, and what's acceptable and what's not, because I think these two things go together. The Pistons are 19-5. The Knicks are 16-7. Let's start there. Does that surprise you for either team?
Not too much. I mean, I can't say that I 100% expected the Pistons to be the 1 seed, but I did expect them to be like that type of team that has a good year. Like, they seem like a team that's on the up and up. But I just think I expected them to be somewhere in that home court range, but they've been kind of just around number 1 this entire time. So, but, not too far off, I would say.
Okay. I'm with you on it. I thought the Pistons would be good. I thought they might slip back a little bit. Obviously, they haven't. They've pushed forward. They're 7-3 in their last 10. 1-2 in a row, so they're not slipping. They're beating the teams that they should beat. They've also beaten Miami. The Knicks today beat the Magic. They've won 3 in a row. They've adjusted to Mike Brown's more offensive mindset. They didn't have Towns today. They were without Anunoby for a while, who may be their most important two-way player. Brunson, they missed for a little bit of time as well. He's kind of their most important offensive player in their engine. They're good. I don't know that they're a championship contender. I still feel like there's something missing on a team that is so reliant on Brunson and Towns. I just think defensively that's not going to hold up in the playoffs, no matter what Bridges and Anunoby do. But Mike Brown's done a good job so far. It hasn't necessarily translated with Mike Brown to the playoffs. He's been a good regular season coach a lot of times. We'll see where that goes. But I don't think anybody's surprised that the Pistons and Knicks would be in the top 4. I think the Knicks were pretty much guaranteed to be in the top 4. The Pistons, we thought, okay, they could be in the mix for it. Here's where it gets interesting. The number 3 and 4 teams right now are the Celtics and the Raptors. Now, these are two teams going in completely different directions. The Celtics just beat the Raptors. The Celtics are 15-9. The Raptors are 15-10. I'm not comfortable with either of these teams being ahead of Miami for different reasons. And I don't think the Raptors are going to be there much longer because it does feel like some of that magic has worn off a little bit. They've gotten a great year from Brandon Ingram. There's some nice players on that roster. It's interesting that Masai Ujiri basically put this team together, got blown out, and now, they're playing pretty well. But the Celtics being 15-9, they've won 8 out of 10, 5 in a row. I didn't see this coming. Did you?
No, this is like I don't know if you remember that. I mean, I know we do so many podcasts, especially in the summer, but that one where we kind of previewed the Eastern Conference and both of us, like we did it in tiers. But I particularly had a really tough time with some of those tiers because I just didn't know where some of these teams were going to go direction wise. Like how much are they really going to try to compete? And we've kind of gotten some answers there, right? Because 2 of those teams that we were talking about were, Indiana, and I know we're not talking about them, but and Boston, where it's like they still have some talent even after missing, their best player for a whole year. Will they try to, or not will they try to, but will they end up being a tanking team or will they end up being a competitive team? And those 2 have gone in different directions, even though the Pacers are playing better now with some of their guys back. But Boston has been a team that's clearly been competing. And I think maybe for Heat fans, it's something that you shouldn't be too upset about, I would say, because there is some insane talent in this next draft. And also, I don't think it's all, I don't mean to oversimplify it. It's just that they're a pretty good team. Like even without Tatum, they're able to look like a decent team in the regular season. I'm not saying they're any sort of championship contenders, but they've shown that they can put together like a good team without Tatum with, so far what they showed this season.
Well, a couple of things have happened here. First thing, Jaylen Brown's playing at a very high level. Peyton Pritchard has kind of gotten together, but also Derek White has popped in the last 3 weeks. He did not look great. The efficiency numbers were not very good, and he's averaging over 21, I think, over the last 3 weeks. So he's kind of been in that space where he was like, okay, can he be more than just like a premium role player? And it didn't look like it earlier in the season, and now it seems like he's adjusted to the role. They've got that big, what's his name? Keita? I saw him in some.
And he was playing for them last year. Like, when certain guys were out, I had a feeling because he was one of those guys where, he would put up these like kind of impressive stat lines coming off the bench whenever like Horford wouldn't play or Porzingis was out. But yeah, like they've gotten, like it's to your point, like they've gotten good in like some of the stuff that the Heat have done over the years where like they get good production out of guys that maybe the outsider, doesn't expect, but they know can step up like Keita.
All right. So, and Missoula has done a pretty good job so far, obviously, to keep them in the mix. And they're starting to play with confidence. And you're right. A lot of people thought they would tank, make this kind of a gap year, a bridge year. You mentioned the Pacers. They're 9.5 games ahead of the Pacers. So one team went one way and the other team went the other way. And I'm not necessarily sure that I thought it was going to be Boston that went that direction. Because the thing is, Indiana's best player left, Siakam's played at a high level. He's a borderline all-star. He's played great, as has Jaylen Brown, but it's been everybody else for Indiana who's been pretty awful. So the Celtics, but I'm not comfortable with them being a game ahead of the Heat without Tatum, though. And Greg made this point before the season. Like, if you're behind Boston this year, that's bad. Like, that should not be happening. And I'm not the biggest Tatum guy, but it should definitely not be happening. All right, on the other side of this, we'll talk about where the Heat are and some of the teams that are below them that might be surprises. But this is what we're talking about in the East right now, where there are between the 2 seed and the 9 seed, there's a 3-game separation. And all of those teams are over 500. When is the last time that the 9 seed in the East was over 500? Meanwhile, Memphis, which is a team that I cover for NSI now too, and I'm following them a little bit, they've won, I think, 6 out of 8. They're 11-13, and they've climbed to the 8. They're close to the 7 now. The East is actually, the West is better at the top. Okay, OKC, Denver, Houston, Lakers. Once you start to get into that middle, though, the East has been stronger than the West this year. And so the Heat cannot have weeks like this. This is one of the reasons we're doing this episode. Like, they lose 3 straight games. They drop from 3 to 7, and they needed a win by the Lakers over Philly to get back to 6. All right, we're talking about a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Another one here, our friends over at Cash App. You're going to use the code SECURE10 there. If you're sending money, this is the safest way to do it. You know, during the holidays, it was like, hey, I'll send you a few bucks so you can buy some gifts for somebody. Make sure that you're doing it with security. So we're going to tell you about 2 things here. First is the card, built-in security that keeps your money safe from fraud, plus the protections you expect. The holidays all about finding the perfect gift, but this time of year, not every deal is exactly what it seems. Scammers are getting more creative to trick people into sharing their payment info through methods like fake shopping sites and giveaways that are too good to be true. Luckily, Cash App's 24/7 fraud monitoring helps detect and alert you for unusual cash activity. Or card activity, I'm sorry, that should someone gain access to your card so you can act fast if something seems off. You can also unlock or lock your Cash App card instantly right in the app for extra control and peace of mind. Stay one step ahead of scams this season and keep your money secure with Cash App. So check it out, and also check this out. Just downloading Cash App itself. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code SECURE10 for additional cash. All you got to do is send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Use the code SECURE10 when you download Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Promotions provided by Cash App, a blocking brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Okay, so here's where the Heat are. They're tied with the Magic. 14-10, tied for 5th, but the Magic have beaten the Heat twice. Teams see each other again on Tuesday. If they lose Wagner, that is a huge loss. He was playing at a borderline all-star level. There's been the questions of how good Paolo and him are together, but that team was not going to reach its full potential unless they figured that out. We talk about a lot of stuff with the Heat related to that, right? Like Powell and Hero, etc. There's been those conversations about the better without one or the other, but they have not been better without Franz over the past couple of years. I don't think they can survive that, frankly. Do you? I don't. I mean, Tristan da Silva has been really good as a second-year player. He's not Franz Wagner.
No, definitely not. I definitely wouldn't think about it that way if I were a Magic fan. I'd be thinking, well, like we're gonna just the same way when Paolo was out, you're gonna have to up the usage for the guys remaining. For Paolo, who's working his way back, for Bane, for Suggs, for Black, who's kind of having a little bit of a breakout season for them off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like Da Silva's been a nice piece too. I think they have enough to survive, but I don't know how long. Like, I think it's one of those things where like they'll be like an okay team, I think, but not necessarily a good team in the standings in the time that he's gone, if he is gone a long time. I do think like we've seen teams get by with worse. Paolo, Bane, Suggs, Black. I think with that, like that should be able to get you something, right? Like as far as being at around 500 at the worst.
And
But
Jace Richardson has been they can play him more. He's been a nice first round pick for them, although he hasn't played a lot because he's playing behind Tyus Jones. I'm with you on all of it. They have adjusted to their new system. It feels like they've been on the upswing, whereas the Heat's been on the downswing. But Franz is such a big part of what they do. I just don't see how they survive that long. That looked to me like an ACL. I don't want to diagnose it, but it looked bad. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's something less significant and it's a 6-week injury, but I don't know. So we'll see how that plays out and see how it plays out Tuesday. But then obviously they're going to lean on Paolo big time, and he's going to have to produce for them. I don't see any reason why the Heat shouldn't be able to pass them if they're missing Franz. I mean, and that's the thing I'm looking at here is the Pistons, the Knicks. Okay, the Heat have beaten the Knicks, but I don't think we expected the Heat to finish ahead of the Knicks this season. But the 3 teams ahead of them, the Celtics, Raptors, and Magic, like those teams should be caught. If Franz is out for the Magic, like those teams should be caught. It's actually a couple of the teams below that I want to talk about here. The Sixers are 13-10 without Embiid. All 3 of these teams, by the way, have all-star type lead players right now. Without Embiid, Maxi's been unbelievable. They're 13-10. The Cavs are kind of the big disappointment here. They're not headed for the same regular season they had last year. They haven't been able to stay healthy. Strus has been out. That's hurt them, I think, in terms of their shooting. DeAndre Hunter's played at a higher level, but it hasn't made up for some of the other stuff. And even though Donovan Mitchell is playing in a top 10 in the league level, it's not leading them to more than 14-11. They're actually 4-6 in their last 10. They haven't been defending the way that they defended last year. They're not getting quite the bench production they got from Ty Jerome. And then there's the Hawks, who are 14-11, and Jalen Johnson is, I think, been a top 3 player in the East this year. Is that fair? With Giannis and Cade Cunningham and Maxey, I guess, right? I mean,
he's been fantastic, man.
Yeah.
The leap. I feel like he was taking a leap last year before the injury, and it looks like he's taken another leap since coming back from the injury, and especially, with the increased usage with Trey out.
Which of those 3 teams, and that's the other question, is when Trey comes back, what that looks like, or if they move Trey. Which of those 3 teams, and they're right there with the Heat, so it's not like passing, they're all a half game behind Miami. Okay, all of them. Which of those 3 teams should Miami be most concerned about? Which are the teams that push them to the play-in, basically?
So it's the Raptors, it's the Magic, and who's the third team?
No, the Raptors are ahead. I'm talking about the 3 behind. The Sixers,
the
Cavs, and the Hawks.
Okay, honestly, from those, I would say the Cavs. That's the easy answer. I think they were the 1 seed last year. I mean, they had an amazing record, and it feels like it's one of those where you can easily look at it and be like, hey, they would be a lot better if they were just healthy. But that's obviously not some magic button that they can push. So if you're telling me that they regain like some sort of relative health, I think that's the easy answer. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. And look, like, for as much as I like some of the stuff they did, like Lonzo, Larry Nance, like I like those players for just teams that are trying to win. Like if you're bringing them off the bench, I do think like the Ty Jerome thing, probably is hurting them, especially right now. Like specifically with all the time they've had without Garland and without others, and the fact that he's like, we've seen it, like having a guy like that who, and obviously like he completely lit up the Heat, even though he didn't play so well afterwards. Like having a guy like that who could just come off the bench and make your already good team even better in that way, I think was kind of a cheat code for them as far as like the regular season standing, somebody that they could rely on to do that every night. And that's probably hurting them a little bit. And you're right, they just haven't been as good overall. But I do think they're the biggest threat because, well, I guess the Sixers too, right? Like as much as I hate to say it, because they've been doing this mostly without Embiid, and like even Paul George like looks better than he did last year. That's Maxey is Maxey. He's a great player.
McCain hasn't really rounded into shape yet either. And I think Edgecombe will continue to progress. Yeah, I mean they're and Grimes. I mean they have some dangerous pieces, particularly in the backcourt. If Embiid could ever stay healthy for 3 straight games, then they might be in better position. I guess the overall, and then the Hawks are interesting. They've found a style behind Jalen Johnson. And again, the question is, and we talked about this with Paolo, we talked about it with Ja in Memphis, we talked about it with Tyler. It's when a player comes back who has been a high usage player, how do you get that player back in the mix without it disrupting everything? And they're going to have to figure that out with Trey. But Risashe has been good. Okongwu has developed into a legitimate starting center. Right. That's an interesting young team that's pretty well coached with Quinn. I think all 3 of these, and again, it gets back to this point. I honestly think some of the teams behind Miami are right now, and again, everybody's bunched up, but the 3 that are right behind Miami, a half game back, are more dangerous than maybe the 3 that are right ahead. The Celtics, the Raptors, and the Magic are right ahead. The Sixers, the Cavs, and the Hawks are right behind. Miami has 2 more bad weeks. They're going to be in the 9 spot. Okay. Like there's not a ton of time for tinkering. And then linkering at 10 are the Bucks, who we don't know what they're going to do.
Don't think we got to worry about them for the time.
Well, they have the best player of all of them.
But he's not playing, and he's out indefinitely.
Well, indefinitely, but he's out until the trade request comes, right? I mean, but. And I hate their roster. I hate their roster. I hated it before the season. I'm sorry. Ryan Rollins is basically their second best player. I mean,
exactly. Like that's even with Rollins taking this insane leap. Like
right.
I mentioned him on our Discord last summer as like a cheap veteran minimum guy they could add. I never thought he could be like this. Like he's really taking a leap.
But he's also crashed the last week, which I think is going to happen.
There's only so much he can do. Like he's not capable of carrying a team.
Well, I mean, Miles Turner has been a wasted. I mean, I hated that when they did it. Kuzma, they were getting production from early, but it's just they linger only because of his presence and because of the possibility of coming back. But we've already seen the Bulls fall out, right? Like that, they've lost 7 in a row. They were 9 and I think they were 9-5, 8-5. They're now 9-14. Feels to me like again the Bulls will be fighting for play-in spot, and then the Hornets are a little better because of Conconnipple, but the Nets, and Hornets, Pacers, Wizards, I don't see coming up. So here's where this is the overall point of this pod is. Okay, The Heat, worst case, are going to end up in the play-in. Worst case. I don't see any scenario where those 5 teams at the bottom, Bulls, Hornets, Nets, Pacers, Wizards, or for that matter, the Bucks, pass them. The Heat are going to end up in a top 9, okay? But they cannot, okay, take their foot off the gas in any way here, because again, there are too many teams that are too close that are like one variable away from going on a run. Like if you look, if Cleveland just gets healthy and starts playing in rhythm, they could go on a run. If the Hawks find a way to get Trey's playmaking along with Jalen Johnson's sort of dominant two-way play that they're getting, they're dangerous this time. That's a different team because they have a different lead guy. The Sixers, as we mentioned, if they ever get Embiid healthy consistently with the way that Maxi's playing and some of the other pieces that they have, they could pass the Heat and leave the Heat behind. The Magic, the Franz thing lingers, but again, they've beaten the Heat twice. They have a style that they play. They still got good players there. I don't trust the Raptors, but right now they're ahead of the Heat. And the Celtics are.
They have talent too.
They have talent too. They've got good play, and the Celtics have decided they're going to compete. And so you can't. I mean, the Pacers decided they're not going to. The Celtics have decided they're going to compete. Those teams, like you said, may regret. The Celtics may regret the decision that the Pacers have made at this point. If you're
hard to say that as people who cover the Heat.
No, but as you're saying, well, I know that. But I mean, if they're ending up with Cameron Boozer, if Indiana ends up with Cameron Boozer, then I think that Boston may regret the decision that they made. But they are trying to compete right now, and so the Heat have to take them seriously also. And this is why we say, well, the East is wide open. It is. That's one of the reasons why these trade talks are coming, starting to hear these rumors and all that, because you can make a run. But also, if they're going to defend lazy like they defended against Sacramento, if teams are going to catch up to the pace stuff, like to a certain degree, it seems like they are. If you're going to have guys disappointing like Jovic has, like Fontecchio has of late, if you're not going to be able to blend Hero and Powell, if every other game Spo is going to bench Ware, okay. If Jaime's not going to revert to the form he had early in the season, he looked better in the last game, but he's come back a little bit. And if Bam is going to take a night off, which I thought he did against Sacramento, frankly, and I kind of thought he did against Dallas, then
hard against the Magic, though.
That's the one, right? But you can't have him playing well 1 out of every 3. I mean, that's the thing. He was great against the Magic, regardless of what happened on the last shot. That wasn't his fault. But what I'm saying is the Heat have some good players. There are good players in the East now. And there are good players in the East. I mean, look, nobody can compete with OKC or, in my view, Denver. But the East it's going to be challenging this year. And they need to get it right soon. So it would start with a win Tuesday up in Orlando. The schedule does get a little softer. The Heat have not played these teams at the bottom. They played Charlotte, but they haven't played Washington. They haven't played Brooklyn. They haven't played some of the worst teams in the West either. But
to be fair, like we haven't talked about this at all because it's almost like it doesn't need to be said because we're doing this for Heat fans. But like just to throw a level of, hey, we got to remember that the Heat have had kind of weird injury health throughout this, like even like Tyler for all the time that he was out. So like even though they were doing well without him, like we haven't necessarily gotten like any sort of consistent sample size with most of their core players together. So it's almost like we kind of know more or less what they are. I think that's fair, but altogether we haven't really seen it. And I know people are tired of hearing that, and so am I. I hate it. It feels like it happens every season, but
it's also happening to other teams, and I think we need to be fair to that. Atlanta's been without Trey. Boston's been without Tatum the entire season. Toronto's had a little bit of injuries. Cleveland, you talk about Garland, Strus. There have been other guys who've been in and out. Mobley missed a little time, so it's not just them. And one of the strengths was supposed to be the depth, and it looked like it until recently. And then some of the depth is starting to regress to the mean a little bit. Fontecchio in particular, Jovic has been disappointing. I didn't think Drew had a great night the other night. You start
his shot has come down to earth a little bit.
That's problematic. Like that, and
they
that's
had a hot shooting start. To be fair,
But again, guys are gonna. There's certain guys that are, they're gonna come back to earth a little bit. They missed Davion and Larson in terms of intensity the other night, but. Even that, I'm expecting Davion's shot to come back a little bit. He's not traditionally been a 41% 3-point shooter, or 40%. So we'll see how it all plays out. More episodes to come this week. Check out everything else. I got an off the floor prize picks. Always mention the code 5 FIVE on the floor for Blue Chew, bluechew.com. You got to have Greg's going to do more reads this week. Also, Cozy Earth on the floor, and what's the Cash App Secure 10. Lots of codes to remember. You can find it on the Discord. Have a good one, everybody.